Bershus the Rebbe Shlita, Yedidi, if I could say. Also, our friendship goes back many years. And actually, I want to begin by establishing my connection with Zhidichov in general. First of all, today's a very special day on the calendar. Not only is it Chanukah, not only is it Rosh Chodesh, but we know there's a special connection between today and Rabbi Meir Balanes. The Ben Ish Chai writes in Vayeshev that on Rosh Chodesh Teves one should light a ner le'iloi nishmas Rabbi Meir Balanes. He doesn't say why. He doesn't give any reason. The Kaf HaChaim brings down the Ben Ish Chai also doesn't give a reason. Reb Chaim Falaji also brings this down. He brings from his son Rabbi Avram Falaji that you should also dafka give tzedakah today le'iloi nishmas Rabbi Meir Balanes. But everybody struggles. What exactly is the connection between Rosh Chodesh Teves and Rabbi Meir Balanes? And many suggest that we have no source of when Rabbi Meir's actual yahrzeit is. It's traditionally observed on Pesach Sheni. But the Sdei Chemed writes, there's no makar that Rabbi Meir Balanes' yahrzeit is Pesach Sheni. He actually says that they went to his kever on Pesach Sheni for practical reasons. He says something very interesting. They wanted to boost the economy in Tiberia because everybody was going up to the north for Lag BaOmer, and everybody was being mefarnes Meroin. So they figured, while everybody's up in the north, let them visit Rabbi Meir. But they were afraid to pick a day because you might know that in some places, on the day of a yahrzeit, I heard in some places they don't say Tachnun on the day of a yahrzeit. And if they would have picked a day other than Lag BaOmer, it would have been another day that they wouldn't say Tachnun. So they figured the closest day to Lag BaOmer that you don't say Tachnun is Pesach Sheni. So they said, once you're up in the north on Lag BaOmer, go to Rabbi Meir on Pesach Sheni. Anyway, you don't say Tachnun, so we're not disrupting the Tachnun. And Pesach Sheni became Rabbi Meir's day. But in reality, the yahrzeit of Rabbi Meir Balanes is today, Rosh Chodesh Teves. And you know, Rabbi Meir Balanes and Zhidichov have a very strong connection. One of the reasons that we give tzedakah le'iloi nishmas Rabbi Meir Balanes, there's a story about the Zhidichover, Rav Tzvi Hirsch, that he was, at one time he was a chayla, and he cried out, give tzedakah le'iloi nishmas Rabbi Meir Balanes. So they said, why? Why dafka now? He says, the Gemara says, Roiv goisesim lamisa. Most people, when they're on the brink, they may not make it. The thing is, Rabbi Meir is choishesh l'miyuta. Rabbi Meir is choishesh for the miyut. So according to Rabbi Meir, there's always chance. There's always hope. Even when things are bleak, even when the situation seems desperate, there's always a possibility you could. That's why, one of the reasons why if you lose something, you lose your car keys. Al Pirov, you're never going to find them. How are you supposed to find your car keys? It's impossible. You could have put it anywhere. You could have put it in the refrigerator, in the freezer, in the laundry. Who knows where your car keys are? Where your wallet is. But Al Pi the Miyot, in the world of Rabbi Meir, there's always a chance. There's always hope. And there's always hope for us. Even us. Even if we're not headed necessarily on the right track, there's always hope. There's always a chance. Rabbi Meir could always bail us out. So I'm very happy to be here on this special day, Rosh Chodesh Teves, Chanukah. And what I would like to speak about this morning, I want to thank my dear friend, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, for arranging for me to come today. I would like to speak about Zois Chanukah and a very interesting line of the Chassam Sofer that none of the Mefarshim seem to be able to crack, where the Chassam Sofer drops a bombshell. The Chassam Sofer, yeah. It's okay, it's okay. It's good. No problem. Chassam Sofer writes something amazing. Chassam Sofer talks about that sometimes people get caught up in the trappings of Chanukah, in the games, in other frivolities, Chassam Sofer says. And Chassam Sofer is mechazik. Actually, this sefer comes from the sefer Minhagei Chassam Sofer. My grandfather, Zechatzak Levracha, who at the end of his life lived here in Flatbush, was a Holocaust survivor. He passed away at 106 years old. He was a Talmud Muvak of Rabbi Menachem Zemba, a Ben Bayis by Rabbi Menachem Zemba. And after the war, after liberation, he was one of the few survivors who knew English and Yiddish. And he was the translator for General Eisenhower to the Kloisenberger Rebbe. So the American Army gave him an army uniform, and they gave him a jeep, and they gave him access to Hitler's libraries. Hitler gathered all the Sfarim in Europe into central libraries. One of the libraries was called the Offenbach Library. They gave my grandfather the key, and he brought home to his house many of the Sfarim in Europe. He was a Rav in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And one sefer he brought home that came to me was Minhagei Chassam Sefer. It's a little brown, old volume. It's not such a rare sefer, but it came from Europe. And the Chassam Sofer says, Limud Inyan Gadol B'Zman Hazeh, learning on Chanukah is a great Inyan. Why? Ki az nimsru soidois ha-Torah l'Moshe Rabbeinu. The secrets of Torah were given to Moshe Rabbeinu on Chanukah. Hafla v'fela, where did the Chassam Sofer get that the Rebbeinu Shalom taught the secrets of Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu on Chanukah? How could even such a thing be? Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai. He goes up on Shavuos. He comes down 40 days later on Shavuos B'Tammuz. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to 40 days. He comes down. Chanukah, as far as I know, did not take place in those 40 days. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up again, Yud Ches Tammuz. He comes back down, Erev Rosh Chodesh Elul. As far as I know, Chanukah was not in those 40 days. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up a third time, Rosh Chodesh Elul. He comes down Yom Kippur. Chanukah does not take place during those days. So where did the Chassam Sofer get this from? That the Rebbeinu Shalom taught Moshe Rabbeinu the secrets of Torah on Chanukah? Moshe Rabbeinu was never on Har Sinai in Chanukah. Everybody asks, all the Mefarshim struggle, what is the makar of the Chassam Sofer that Kadosh Baruch Hu taught Moshe Rabbeinu the secrets of Torah on Chanukah? So L'Kavod Zois Chanukah. We have a few hours to prepare. I would like to share with you maybe a proposal of the source of this Chassam Sofer. How do we know that the secrets of Torah were taught to Moshe Rabbeinu on the Yom Tov of Chanukah? Another famous question. We know we have Masechta Megillah. One day, we have one day on the calendar, Purim. We have 30 blot in Masechta Megillah. You would expect an 8-day Yom Tov, at least, I don't know, you should have 240 blot. Some Masechta for Chanukah. A perek on Chanukah. How about one Mishnah in the whole Shas that talks about Chanukah? Does anybody know how many times the word Chanukah appears in Shisha Sidrei Mishnah? Baba Kama, very good. Gavaldik. 6 times in the whole Shisha Sidrei Mishnah you have the word Chanukah, and usually it's Agavorcha. In Bikurim, Mevi'in B'Karin on Chanukah, you have in Baba Kama, you have in Tainus, you have in Moed Katan, you have in 6 places. There is not one din of Chanukah mentioned in the entire Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. That it has to be this high, it can't be lower than this, it has to have this number of neiros. There's not one halacha specific to Chanukah mentioned in Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. And in terms of Bavli, all you got is 2.5 blot. 2.5 blot? You know, when I was a kid, there were 100 answers to the Beis Yosef's Kasha. A few years ago, I went to Lakewood. Sefer, 500 answers to the Beis Yosef's Kasha. This year, 1,000 answers to the Beis Yosef's Kasha. Now, if I was writing a Sefer, I would share 1,001st answer. Nobody ever said this answer before. If you count the number of lines in My Chanukah, there are 8 lines in My Chanukah. My Chanukah, the Tanur Rabban, the whole story is 8 lines. So we have 8 days of Chanukah, Keneged the 8 lines. By the way, that answer is just as good as about 700 of the other answers.
It's only the Vilna.
Right.
It's the Vittish.
Very good. Only 2.5 blot on Chanukah. In the whole Zohar HaKadosh, do you know how many times Chanukah is mentioned? 1 time. 1 time. What's going on? Why are we trying to hide this? In Sifrei Chasidus, the Bnei Yissaschar, there's more information on Chanukah than any other Yom Tov. So why is there no Perek in Shas? Why is there no Masechta? Why is there so little Gemara? Why is it only mentioned once in the Zayar? Here's another interesting question. The Rebbeinu Shalom taught Moshe Rabbeinu Kol HaTorah Kula, and Moshe Rabbeinu was a very good Talmud. Rarely do we find that Moshe Rabbeinu had a difficulty in understanding what the Rebbeinu Shalom taught him. And yet when it comes to the Menorah, Chazal say, Niskashem Moshe b'Menorah. Moshe Rabbeinu did not understand the Menorah. How do I know? Because the Rebbeinu Shalom said, V'zeh Maseh Menorah. V'zeh, that means the Rebbeinu Shalom is Menorah be'etzba. That means Hashem had explained it to Moshe what was so difficult about the Menorah that Moshe Rabbeinu could not understand the Menorah. He understood the Kruvim, he understood the Mizlagois, Mizrakois, the Ya'im. He understood the Krasim, the Krushim, the Adonim, but not the Menorah. What was so difficult about the Menorah? Question: if you're cold, are you allowed to put on a warm talis to warm yourself and be neneh from the talis? Why not? The talis doesn't have kedusha. You know that. It's a chefza shel mitzvah. Chefza shel mitzvah doesn't have kedusha. Chefza shel mitzvah nizrakin. They don't go into shemis me'ikar hadin. Okay, we treat them b'derech kavod, but al pi halacha only tashmishe kedusha have kedusha. Tashmishe a shofar. You're allowed to be neneh from a shofar. They're only niskadesh be'idan at the time you're being mekayim a mitzvah. But if you want to warm yourself with the talis, you can warm yourself with the talis. The only thing you're not allowed to do with the chefza shel mitzvah is derech bizayin. So let's say, your glasses are foggy. Are you allowed to clean them with your talis? It depends if it's a derech bizayin or not. Some places can say you could. You're just cleaning your glasses. Others say maybe it's derech bizayin. But personal use is permitted with a chefza shel mitzvah. But not the Menorah. Why can't you be neneh from the Menorah? Why can't you be neneh from Neras Chanukah? Because it's a mitzvah, you're allowed to be neneh from chefzei mitzvah. What's this inyan? Asur l'hishtamesh la'oira. Why is it asur l'hishtamesh la'oira? Tomorrow, I know tomorrow is your favorite day. Because tomorrow is the longest weekday Kriyas HaTorah of the whole year. Everyone's looking forward to the longest Vachadika Kriyas HaTorah of the whole year. It's the only time that we read until the end of a parsha and we go right through the stop sign. Usually we stop at the end of the parsha. Unless it's a double parsha, we stop at the pei or the samach. Certainly at the end of the parsha. The only time the whole year you run right through the stop sign, right through the red light, no points, no tickets. You go right through into Parshas Bahaloischa. What's the pshat? Dafkan, Zois Chanukah. There are no barriers. There's no stopping. We go right through the end of the parsha. Chanukah is a very strange date on the calendar. Usually Yomim Tovim, we do it in the beginning of the month, or the end of the or the middle of the month. Rosh Hashanah, Tesvav. Comes Chanukah. What's the date? Chaf Hei. What's Chaf Hei? Chaf Hei is not usually the typical time that we would celebrate a Yom Tif. What's the inyan that Chanukah's toward almost the end of the month? Another kasha. The Gemara says, a child, b'mei imai, a malach comes, teaches him the whole Torah. And ner doluk al roisha, there's a candle lit on his head, and the baby sees v'roya me'soif ha'olam v'yad sofer, from one end of the world to the other end of the world. The Gemara says, kivan sheyatza lavir ha'olam, ba malach, v'satar al piv, right? He hits him on the mouth, and the baby forgets Kol HaTorah Kula. And the $1 million question is, okay, and what in the world happened to the candle? So, right, the Gemara says two things. They light a candle, the baby could see from one end of the world to the other, they teach him Kol HaTorah Kula, then the baby is born, the malach hits him on the mouth, which, by the way, the Nesiva says, it means he hits him on the head, because you're not going to forget something if you're hit on the mouth. The piv means moichai. Hits him on the head. You forget the Torah. Okay, where's the candle? Where'd the candle go? Is it still lit? Is it still burning? Did the malach extinguish it? If the malach extinguished it, why didn't the Gemara say the malach extinguished it? And finally, one last question. In Parshas Bereshis, by Brias Ha'olam, Vayomer Elokim. Very good. You see where I'm going. Vayomer Elokim, Yishutzu Hamayim, Vayehi Chen. Vayehi Chen. Vayomer Elokim, Tadshe Ha'aretz Deshe, Vayehi Chen. Vayomer Elokim, Nasa Adam, Vayehi Chen. By every act of creation, it says, the Rebbeinu Shalom said there should be, Vayehi Chen, Vayehi Chen, whatever the Rebbeinu Shalom said it should be, it was so. With one exception. Vayomer Elokim Yehi Ar, what's your name? Moshe says, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Ar, it doesn't say Vayehi Chen. It says Vayehi Ar. It almost sounds like something went wrong with the light. Everything else the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted to do, it was done exactly the way the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted it. But when it came to light, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Ar, we're expecting Vayehi Chen. Doesn't say Vayehi Chen. It says Vayehi Ar. What exactly happened to the light? So Rashi tells us what happened to the light. There was a very special light of creation the Rebbeinu Shalom created. We call this light the Ar Haganos, the hidden light. It's a powerful light. It's a light that Chazal say Adam Rishon was able to see Meisoif ha'olam v'yad soifai, and that's a very important clue, because that means the characteristic of this light is that through this light you could see from one end of the world to the other end of the world. But then the Rebbeinu Shalom saw that it's not a good thing that it should just be available to everybody, and then the Rishonim could see what's doing all over the world. So the Rebbeinu Shalom had to take the light and he stowed it away, he stashed it away, he hid it away, la'asid lavai, for the tzaddikim. That's why, even though it says Vayomer Elokim Yehi Ar, it doesn't say Vayehi Chen. Doesn't say Vayehi Chen, because it wasn't the way the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted it. So it just says Vayehi Ar. Will that light ever be the way the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted it? So let's try to understand. For how long did that light serve the world? How long was that, we call it the primordial light, the original light of creation? How long did that light serve the world? So Yushalmi says in Chagiga, something where it's hard to understand fully, that light only served the world. What would you have said? I'll tell you what I would have said. Hashem said Yehi Ar on the first day of creation. So I would have said that light served the world, I don't know, until day 4 or until Shabbos. The Yushalmi says in Brachos that it served the world 36 hours, 12 hours on Friday on Erev Shabbos, 24 hours on Shabbos. Comes Matzah Shabbos, the Rebbeinu Shalom took that original light and he put it away for the tzaddikim la'asid lavai. 36 hours. So the question we have to ask, and the journey we're going to go on this morning, is where did it go? Where did the light go? So Chazal say, nignaz. What does nignaz mean? So nignaz means it's hidden. It's hidden. That's not what the word nignaz means. Chazal say the Aron was nignaz. Does that just mean the Aron is hidden? Does that mean we don't know where it is? We know exactly where the Aron is. You know that? The Mishnah says there was a Kohen who saw that the floorboard in the Heichal was a little off, and he realized there must be something under it, and he went to run. He didn't have a chance to give it over, and he passed away. Says Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, okay, great. So let's go to that floorboard. Nah, they chose not to. The Rambam writes, Shlomo HaMelech, when he made the first Beis HaMikdash, he made it with underground secret tunnels, convoluted tunnels, and that's where the Aron is. That means we know where the Aron is. The Aron is under the Beis HaMikdash. So what does it mean it's nignaz? Says Rav Hutner, nignaz doesn't mean it's hidden, we don't know where it is. Nignaz means that while in the past it operated in an open and revealed fashion, now it's still there. We know where it is, but it's not operating, it's not being active in the same open, revealed fashion. It's being operating in a hidden fashion. That's what nignaz means. So when we say the Rebbeinu Shalom put away the Or Haganos, it doesn't mean, well, where? No, we don't know. It's a mystery. No, it's not a mystery. We may even know where. It just means that the open, revealed light of creation that maybe was in the sun now is operating in a more secretive, hidden manner. So let's try to discover, where is the Or Haganos of creation? So if you have a sheet, or I could read to you the Medrash, one of the most famous Midrashim that we're all familiar with, the Medrash Tanchuma in Parshas Noach. Medrash Tanchuma says, Medrash Tanchuma is talking about the Torah Sheba'al Peh, that the Torah Sheba'al Peh could really only be mastered if you're willing to give up a little bit of the comforts of this world. Don't think you could live it up and indulge in every type of immersive pleasure and then also master Torah Sheba'al Peh. Like you could have it both ways. If you really want to have a deep connection to Torah Sheba'al Peh, you have to be willing to give up and sacrifice a little bit of Tanugei Olam Hazeh. You could only really appreciate and understand Torah if you sacrifice a little bit. And in the context of this idea, the Medrash says that the light that Hashem created on the first day of creation, Hashem put it away, la'amele Torah, the Medrash says. Okay, very nice. Where'd he put it? Where's the box? Where's the safe? Where's the floorboard? So one of the Mefarshim on the Medrash, the Eitz Yosef brings from the Maggid Tzedek of Vilna, Genazai b'toirasai hakadoisha shabaha adam mabit misayfa olam yad sayfa. The Rebbeinu Shalom hid it away in the Torah, that with it you could see from one end of the world to the other. In other words, Tzadikim, Gedolei Yisrael. We could barely even see what's in front of our nose, but the great Gedolei Yisrael, they could see well off into the future. How? The Or Haganos is hidden in the Torah. Likewise, the Nefesh HaChaim writes, look at number 16. Shahar, last words. Shahar nignaz ba'oiraisa. Reb Chaim Volozhiner writes, Ki nignaz ha'ar b'Torah. Chaim Volozhiner writes in the Hakdama to Shnois Eliyahu. The Baal Shem Tov also writes, the Or Haganos is hidden in the Torah. Okay, where? You know, we want to know exactly where in the Torah. Which book? There are a lot of books on the shelf. There's Art Scroll. Is it Shabbos Volume 1, Shabbos Volume 2, Shabbos Volume 3, Shabbos Volume 4? Where is it? Is it in the Chumash, the Nevi'im, in the Kabbalah? Where is the Or Haganos? The fact that the Medrash Tanchuma says it's reserved la'amele Torah Sheba'al Peh, that gives us a little bit of a clue that it's specifically connected to the Torah Sheba'al Peh. By the way, the Bnei Yissaschar writes, and this theme that we're talking about is a major theme in the writings of the Bnei Yissaschar. Anybody who's familiar with the Sefer Bnei Yissaschar knows that more than any other subject, the Bnei Yissaschar is busy, writes extensively about Chanukah. He wrote that he considered himself from Shevet Yisachar, which is very connected to the Yom Tov of Chanukah. Many of the Darshanim darshan, Haduda imnas nureach, zemasa Yisachar, the al kol pesachenu megadim, zuner Chanukah. Bnei Yissaschar writes that on the words Vayar Elokim Esar Ki Toiv, on the tests of Ki Toiv, there are 4 tagim. I don't think that our Sefer Torah have 4 tagim on the tests. I don't believe so. But there is such a Mesorah that the test should have 4 tagim. Tests times 4 is 36. So that's a remez that the original light of creation lasted 36 hours. Now, the test also has a vav and a vez. That the Bnei Yissaschar says refers to the rest of Chanukah. 6 and 2. The 6 middle days and the 2 bookends. And that's because the bookends of Chanukah have a different status than the middle of Chanukah. The first day, you make a Shechianu. The last day, Zois Chanukah, also has a very special status. We'll try to explain what's the special status of Zois Chanukah. The Arizal says that when you light the menorah each night, you should be mechavein Let's say the first night, it corresponds to the first of the Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim. The second night, the second. The third night, the third. The eighth night, you think it's Keneged Midah 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So the eighth day of Chanukah corresponds to all the remainder of the Yud Gimel Midos Harachamim. Zois Chanukah has many important facets to it, and therefore Chanukah is divided into Vav, 6 days, and Beis, 2 days. The first day and the last day. That light served the world for 36 hours. Comes the Bnei Yissaschar and he says, I want to share something from 3 Balei Ruach HaKodesh. Who are they? The Baal Roikeach, Rabbi Lezer of Garmaiza, who had Gilui Eliyahu Hanavi. The Roikeach was the master of the secrets of the Ramazim and the Torah. The Maral of Prague, who the Bnei Yissaschar says used Sefer HaYetzirah. Rav Pinchas Koritzer, one of the early Talmidim of the Baal Shem, of the Maggid, also a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, and they all say the same idea, that the original light of creation that served the world for 36 hours was stowed away in the Torah Shabbal Peh. How big is the Torah Shabbal Peh? Halichois Oilam Loi. We have a tradition, they're Lamid Vav Mesechtas and Shas. You know, the first tshuva in Shas Tshuvas Maria Assad makes the cheshbon. What are the 36 mesechtos in Shas? The Ber Heitev brings down when you shake the lulav, Lamid Vav Leiv, where you want to bring the 36 mesechtos of Shas close to your heart. Lulav, the 36 mesechtos of Shas, Leiv. We have a tradition. There are 36 mesechtos in Shas. The Ar Hagonos was hidden in the 36 mesechtos of Shas. When you learn Talmud Bavli, you access the Ar Hagonos. When you immerse yourself in the Gemara, now you don't just see what's in front of your nose. You could see down the block. You could see into tomorrow. You could see into next year. You could see from one end of the world into the next. That's the power of Shas. Shas opens your eyes. Shas opens your eyes in ways you can't even imagine. The Brisker Rav would say he could see 20 years into the future. But Reb Chaim could see 50 years. Shas. You become a different person. You see a different world. But these 3 Balei Ruach HaKodesh, they reveal another great revelation. That the Menorah in the Beis HaMikdash also revealed and accessed the original light of creation. How so? I used to have a Rebbe in Yeshiva. If you asked a good kasha, the Rebbe would say, Gavaldik, kaftor v'ferach. You had such Rabbeim? Nowadays, I don't know what they're going to say, right? Kaftor v'ferach. What does kaftor v'ferach mean? Buttons and flowers. You know, what in the world is the Rebbe talking about? Buttons and flowers. The Netziv writes that there were 2 kelim in the Mishkan that brought 2 different hashpa'os to the world. There's the Aron and the Menorah. The Aron had the luchos. The Aron was mashpia on the world, the koyach Torah shebechsav. The Menorah was mashpia on the world, the koyach of Torah Shabbal Peh. Through the designs of the Menorah, the various kaftoirim and gaviyim and prachim were mashpia on the world, influence of Torah Shabbal Peh. Therefore, says the Netziv, if you look in the Medrash, Reb Tarfon would say when he heard a good kasha, Gavaldik, Moshe, kaftor v'ferach. Kaftor v'ferach. That means Reb Tarfon was able to understand that the influence of Torah came about to the world through the various decorations of the Menorah. When Aaron HaKohen lit the Menorah, now I'm going to tell you another connection I have with Zhidichov. Okay? My Zayda, Harav, Mordechai Leib Glatstein, Zechat Tzaddik Levracha, he was a Yasaim. His father passed away in 1917 from the Spanish flu. He grew up by his Zayda. His Zayda was the Rav in Linschitz in the 1860s. Okay, can you imagine? I knew someone who was a Rav in the 1860s in Linschitz. Who was in Linschitz in the 1860s? The Malbim. The Malbim, if you know the history of the Malbim, was they were roidef him from every Rabbanos he was in. And he sat in a shul in Linschitz and he wrote the Malbim as a regular person. So my great-great-grandfather was the Rav in that city, and he became best friends with the Malbim. So my Zayda, who didn't know his father and never met the Malbim, adopted the Malbim like as his uncle, to the point where my grandfather an hour of his life didn't go by without him talking about the Malbim. That where did the Malbim learn Kabbalah from? From the Sar Beis Hazoyar, from Reb Tzvi Hersh of Zhidichov. You know, the Malbim. Now, the Malbim was so great, the Briskers say there are three Achroinim that have a status of a Rishon. First they say Avada Reb Chaim, and the Goin, the Vilna Goin, and the Malbim. The Malbim learned Kabbalah from Reb Tzvi Hersh of Zhidichov. Says the Malbim, when Aaron lit the Menorah, Aaron knew that the original light of creation wasn't the way it was supposed to be. Because the Rebbeinu Shem wanted it to be our agonos, but it couldn't be that way. The Rebbeinu Shem wanted Vayar Melikim Yihi Ar. He was hoping it would be Vayihi Chen. But it wasn't Vayihi Chen. It was Vayihi Ar. So when Aaron lit the Menorah, what does the pasuk say? Vayas Kain Aaron. Aaron fixed the Cain of Brias Ha'olam. Vayas Cain. And tomorrow, the last words we're going to read, when we run right through the stop sign, from Nasa into Ba'aloischa, Cain Asa es HaMenorah. Cain Asa es HaMenorah. Aaron fixed the Cain of Brias Ha'olam. Says the Malbim, now we could crack the very difficult Rashi. Rashi says, Melamed Shivchoy Shal Aaron Shaloi Shina. We see the great shvach of Aaron, that when he lit the Menorah, he didn't deviate. He didn't deviate? That's a great praise of Aaron. Moshe tells him to light the Menorah, and Aaron didn't go golfing. So it's a big shvach of Aaron that he didn't deviate from what Hashem said. Says the Malbim, no, Shaloi Shina. He was able to make it that the original light of creation did not deviate an iota from what the Rebbeinu Shem intended. Kain Asas HaMenorah, says the Malbim. But Moshe Rabbeinu had a problem with the Menorah. You know what the problem was? The Vilna Gaon writes on the first pasuk in Sefer Devarim, in Adar Seliyah, if you make a cheshbon, the Gaon says, there are 22 Geviyim in the Menorah. There are 9 Prachim of the Menorah. There are 11 Kaftoirim of the Menorah. There are 7 Kanim of the Menorah. So if you take 22, and you take 11, and you take 9, and you take 7, and you add up all the details of the Menorah, you get 49. The Menorah brought to the world the Mem Tes Sharei Chachma. But they're more than Mem Tes Sharei Chachma. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, Chamishim Sharei Bina Nivru Va'olam V'kulam Nitna L'Moshe Chasar Achas Shenemar V'atachasrei Ma'ad Me'alekim. That there are 50 gates of wisdom, but they were all given to Moshe except for one. So Moshe did not know the Shar Nun. Says the Goin, the Menorah itself is the Shar Nun. Okay? There are 22 Geviyim, and 9 Prachim, and 11 Kaftoirim, and 7 Kanim. But the Menorah Atzma is the Shar Nun. Niskashe Moshe b'Menorah. Moshe didn't know the Shar Nun, so he couldn't understand the Menorah. That means the Menorah itself is the Shar Nun. Did Hashem explain the Menorah to Moshe? I think he did. Hashem said, okay, you don't know the Shar Nun? Vizeh, here it is. I'm going to explain it to you. Hashem must have given to Moshe what we call a little te'ima of the Shar Nun. Because he said, you don't understand it, here it is. V'zeh ma'aseh Menorah. And we know, Chassam Sofer writes, the reason why Moshe's Talmud Yehoshua is Yehoshua bin Nun, is Yehoshua was misboinen in the Shar Nun that Moshe taught him. So how did Moshe Rabbeinu know it? Hashem must have showed him. B'chlal, you know that there's a machlokes Arizal on the Gra, At Kabbalas HaTorah, the Ari says, Vayidaber Hashem Moshe Kol Hadvar, Moshe was taught all 50 gates. But then by the Ched HaEgel, Hashem said, Lech raid, go down from Lech, go down from 50, go to 49. But on Moshe Rabbeinu's last day, Vayal Moshe Me'arvois Moav, Moav is 49, Elhar Nun Boy, Elhar Navai. So Moshe Rabbeinu, his whole life was going back and forth between these madregos. But when Hashem taught Moshe Rabbeinu, V'zeh Masa HaMenorah, he must have taught him something of the Sharnon. It would be interesting to discover what day Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, V'zeh Masa HaMenorah. It doesn't say anywhere. So that's good for me, that it doesn't say anywhere. Reb Chaim Kanievsky wrote a sefer, Lemichsei Atik, where he tells you the dates of what happens in Chumash, or when something happens, we don't know who did it, he uncovers when and who. Sometimes that's a good thing for me, but when he doesn't say, it's fertile ground, we call it, right? What day did the Rebbeinu Shalom tell Moshe V'zeh Masa HaMenorah? Now, we have to know. In response to what did Hashem tell Moshe Rabbeinu V'zeh Masa HaMenorah? So Rashi says, the Nesiim each brought a carbon on their respective day. And what happened? Aaron HaKoyen had Chalishas Hadas, that his Shevet did not have a carbon to be Mechanech L'Mizbeach. So Moshe tells Aaron, don't worry, V'zeh Masa HaMenorah, Shalcha Gedoyla Mishelahem. So let's try to understand. On what day did they inaugurate the Mizbeach? Rosh Chodesh Nisan. So presumably, this whole story that Aaron had Chalishas Hadas, and Moshe said, don't worry, V'zeh Masa HaMenorah, L'chayra, you would assume it happened in Rosh Chodesh Nisan. But Chazal say it wasn't originally scheduled to happen on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It was originally scheduled to happen on Chanukah. The Yalkut Shimoni says that it was scheduled for Chanukah, but Hashem says, no, let's wait to Rosh Chodesh Nisan for the day that the month of Yitzchak Avinu. So I think it's reasonable to assume that even though they didn't actually bring the karbanos on Chanukah, but because they were supposed to and it was scheduled, that's when the order was given. The Nesiim are going to bring these 12 karbanos. Aaron felt bad, so Hashem gave over to Moshe the Menorah, and Moshe said, V'zeh Masa HaMenorah. That took place on Chanukah to go into effect months later on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. If that's the case, if V'zeh Masa HaMenorah took place on Chanukah, then what days of the year did Hashem teach Moshe Rabbeinu the Shar Nun, the secrets of the Torah? It was Chanukah. It was Chanukah. Maybe, just maybe, when the Chassam Sofer says that we have to be so careful during these days of Chanukah to be mechazik and liman ha-Torah, ki oz nimseru soidos ha-Torah l'Moshe Rabbeinu, maybe this is what he's referring to. Maybe what the Chassam Sofer is referring to is because the Rebbeinu Shalom taught Moshe Rabbeinu v'zeh Masa HaMenorah, that according to the Goyin was the Shar Nun, which, yes, it was going to go into effect on Rosh Hashanah Nisan, but originally planned for Chanukah. And maybe that's why Chanukah is designated to teach Moshe Rabbeinu the secrets of the Torah. Says the Shla HaKadosh, the reason why you can't be nene from the light of the menorah is because when we light the menorah in our house, we are bringing out to the world a little bit of the aragonos, so therefore we are not nene from it, to show our reverence for it, to show that it was originally nignaz and put away not for mankind. And says the Shla HaKadosh, the reason why Chanukah is on Chof Hei Kislev is because Chanukah is the fixing of the light of creation. The light of creation, Vayomer Elokim Yihiyar, was on the 25th day of Elul, 5 days before Rosh Hashanah. And we know something is not firmly established until 3 months pass. Therefore, when is the Or established? Chof Hei Kislev. And maybe we could suggest, you know why there's no Masechta for Chanukah? A Masechta for Chanukah? What is Chanukah? We're bringing out the Or Haganas. Where is the Or Haganas? It's in the Shas. Which Masechta? What do you mean which Masechta? It's in the Lamed Vav Masechtais. You're going to make one Masechta for Chanukah? You're going to say, Masechta Chanukah? Kilu, Chanukah is relegated, is reduced to one Masechta? You can have one Masechta on Chanukah. Chanukah is Hadran Alach Talmud Bavli. It's the whole Shas. Chanukah is Kol HaTorah Kula. You know, the Bnei Yissaschar writes elsewhere, Sam Sofer also writes, there's 613 mitzvahs d'oraisa, there's 7 mitzvahs d'Rabbanan. You know how many letters are in the Aseres HaDibros? There are 620 letters in the Aseres HaDibros. The last 7, Asher L'Reacha, spell out in an acronym the 7 mitzvahs d'Rabbanan. The last mitzvah d'Rabbanan, the Chaf, stands for L'Reacha. Chaf is Kohanim Chanukah. Chanukah creates the Keser of Kol HaTorah Kula. Chanukah encompasses all of Torah. So you're going to have one Masechta for Chanukah. Chanukah is not one Masechta. Chanukah is the whole Torah. Chanukah was not written the same way the original light of creation was put away and nignaz la'asad lavai. When we light the Menorah, we're doing a big thing. We have one more opportunity. Tonight's the big night. Tonight we're lighting the 36th candle. Tonight, as much as it's humanly possible in this world to have some type of te'ima of the highest realm of Chachmas HaTorah, you access on the final night of Chanukah. On Chanukah, on the final day, during the rest of the year, we're limited by Mem Tes. You know, the Tikkunei Zayar says that there are 24 letters in Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Hayli Olam Va'ed. And when we finish the 24 letters, we get to Chaf Hei. Chaf Hei are the 25 letters of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And that's Chanukah. So think about it. Chanukah is the 24 letters of Baruch Shem, the 25 letters of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, and that's 49 only. But the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos on that base, the 50th shar is Yichud Hashem of Mesiras Nefesh, which is what we did on Chanukah. We were Moser Nefesh to regain the Avodah. It's the one time a year you could access just a little bit the Shar Nun. And therefore, on the final day of Chanukah, we go through all stop signs. During the rest of the year, we have limitations. The parsha is over. Adkan Oimrim B'Shabbos Hagadol. We have to stop at the end of the parsha. We have to obey. We have to obey our human limitations. Comes Zois Chanukah, we run right through the stop sign. You know, the Bnei Yissaschar writes, Parshas Behaloischa, that we're going to run into tomorrow, is the 36th parsha in the Chumash. Nasa is 35. Behaloischa is 36. Tomorrow, we're going to go right through all the way to the 36th parsha, indicating that we're accessing even the 36th hour that the original light of creation serviced the world. So tomorrow, tonight, we could access great Kedusha, great Oirois, and as many Sfarim say, that the 8 Shvachim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Paya Gevurais, Oisa Chadashais, Baal Melchamais, Zoreat Tzedakais, Matzmiach Yeshuais, Noira Silais, Adon HaNeflois. Adon HaNeflois is the final day of Chanukah. Zois Chanukah. The great Pella, the greatest Pella of all, is that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave Klal Yisrael even this highest realm of wisdom. When you light the Menorah tonight, Vayas Kain Aroin. Cain, by the way, Cain is a reference to the Shar Nun. Why? Because you have 49, and the Shar Nun is what we call the Shem Ekia. Aleph Hey, Yod Hey. That's the 50th gate of wisdom. 49 and 21 is 70. Vayas Kain Aroin. By the way, many Sfarim say Shemen and Atbash is Ekia. Also indicating that on Chanukah you could access even the highest realm of wisdom. So when you light the Menorah, you're telling yourself, what's going to be with Masechta Brachas? What's going to be with Masechta Shabbos? What's going to be with Erevin? What's going to be with Psachim? and you're lighting all 36 candles, and you're telling yourself, you're telling your children, that al yedei hadlakas ha-menorah, you could stir a fire in your neshama, to have a cheshek and a Chanukah, to access the Ar Hagonos, al yedei the Lamed Vav Mesachtas. May we be zoiche, be'ezras Hashem, Ar Chadash, al Tzion Tayer, v'nizkach Chulanu, Mehera la'oiroi, Afreilach and Chanukah. Thank you very much.